Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I'm sad I couldn't make it in person, but here we are. And I'm excited to talk about this topic that I think about every day, which is this idea of what is disruption in this post-COVID world. And I think about this all the time, and I think about this, there's a whole bunch of aspects of my career that are built around this. And if I think back to when I worked for the Obama campaign, a lot of what we did was around disruption, around changing kind of the game, so to speak. The person that came before me, Michael Slaby, he was a CTO in 2008. He talked a lot about how tech was a force multiplier. Tech was this thing that allowed us to grow. And I, as a CTO in 2012, was really able to kind of expand and build upon this in this way that I really think is important. Today, though, I am no longer in politics. I am an entrepreneur. I started a couple companies in the meantime. I've built a lot of things. I like to call these my vision quests. But like many of you, over the past couple of years, it's been more of a COVID quest of trying to figure out what does this world around COVID look like. I started this company called General Galactic Corporation. We focus a lot around the Metaverse, around Web3, all of this kind of weird, bizarre stuff, or as I like to call it, the future. I have this feeling that the future started in 2020, that we spent a lot of time thinking about what digital disruption would look like. We've all been at these events thinking like, what's going to happen in the future? How is digital transformation going to happen? And what we saw in the beginning of 2020 and continuing now is that we're in the middle of some forced innovation where we are sitting here. None of us, I think, want to go through this really, but we have these very big three ingredients that are helping us along. The first one is obviously COVID. The second one is conflict. And the third one is climate change. In a lot of ways, this is innovation through survival. And we hear this over and over again, that what we're dealing with right now is what we call the new normal. And so what does this all mean? What are we talking about here? How does this work? Well, I have three thoughts. The first one is pretty simple. The first one is work is changing. In pre-2020, work was very easy. You would spend a lot of time, you would go to an office and you would just have this very simple path. Today, things are a little bit different. Today, we have work from home, obviously. We have the great resignation. I have more people in my community, more people that I have employed, more people that I know who quit in the last 2 years their job seemingly out of nowhere. And what happens instead of having one job is you have lots of jobs. But the downside here is that this leads to more inequality. This leads to a lot of complicated things. In the future, however, I think we're going to be in a world where you can work from anywhere. We're going to be in this thing that a lot of my VC friends call the contributor economy. And I think what this means is it really means the Uberization of everything, that everyone will become a gig worker. Knowledge workers will be gig workers, etc. And this could lead down a path of further inequality. So the second idea, the second thought that I have a lot of is that technology is changing, or probably better said, technology is changing again. Obviously, we have things like virtual reality. Virtual reality, I think it's less about this kind of experience where everyone is sitting there with virtual reality goggles on, and it's much more about this experience of, things like a Peloton, entertainment, but it will be around work. The metaverse is something that's coming up very fast. We're seeing a lot of the metaverse. One of the things that I find very interesting is how this is manifesting as a work tool. We've all seen kind of Meta, or Facebook as it was called, their vision of this future. In many ways, we're living this right now, probably more so me than y'all, since I'm in the virtual world here. But it is something that I think what we're seeing every day. And then the thing that I am kind of the most fascinated about, which I just think is wild, is the world of cryptocurrencies. We have all of these insanely kind of Lego brick-like experiences with money. And for the first time in a long time, we can build just very interesting and new things with these fintech technologies. And what I find absolutely fascinating about it is, in some cases, it's just replicating the old traditional finance worlds, but in many cases, there's a lot of very interesting and new different things. And I think this is a future that I'll talk about in a second. And then obviously AI is something that I think about all the time. I think this is something that's going to be increasingly part of our world. We've all kind of seen what this looks like and how this works. But there is an aspect of this that we're going to see probably very shortly that I think is a little bit scarier, which is how is this used for obviously information warfare, etc. And so the third kind of thing that I keep thinking about is what are the opportunities around this? And I'd like to summarize them very quickly in that I think the first one is about investing in diversity. When I think about who I'm hiring, who I'm working with, these are people that are all over. These are people that come from different backgrounds. This is a very important group of people because I don't necessarily know where they are coming from or what they're doing, but they all are coming and they're very prepared and they're excited to work. The second one is, as entrepreneurs, as bosses, as leaders, we have to invest in flexibility, because we don't know what conflict is happening in the world for our workers, with cross-border workers, et cetera. We need to make sure that we have ultimately flexible opportunities for these workers, for these people, just to make sure that we have continuity, that we have opportunity. Enable autonomy. Obviously, workers really want autonomy. This is something we've seen over and over again, whether it's Daniel Pink or others. But the most important thing is just allowing the users with that flexibility, or the workers with that flexibility, to be able to do what they want to do. And then finally, I think there's this idea of soft borders. How do we make sure that the workers who are moving around, whether they are refugees, whether they're running from crisis, or whether they're just moving towards a new opportunity, how do we make sure that they have the same opportunities that we all do? But the first thing is, or the final thing is that the future is going to be super, super weird. And I'm here for it. I'm excited about it. But one of the number one things is that we have to make sure that, much like when you're on that airplane and they say, put the oxygen mask on yourself first, we need to make sure we're taking care of ourselves, our businesses, before we can take care of those around us. So thank you very much. And I look forward to hearing from the other panelists.